Everything in Chicago is about to explode. Episode 3 of Power Book 4. Force is shaping up to be the moment where every secret, every lie, and every silent move finally hits the streets. And the clues we already have are pointing toward one thing. Tommy isn't just fighting his enemies anymore. He might be fighting the people closest to him. Episode 2 leaves the entire city on shaky ground. And Episode 3 is about to push things even further. Tommy is standing at the center of a storm he partly created, trying to control the chaos while the people around him begin to drift into their own dangerous paths. Every alliance feels weaker than before, and every small decision now comes with heavy consequences. Tommy feels the pressure tightening around him, not just from the streets, but from the people he once depended on. In the last episode, we saw Tommy moving with purpose, but there was also something else, this silent frustration that shows he knows time is running out. His enemies are growing in number and getting smarter, and the longer he waits to strike, the more he risks losing his grip on the city he wants to control. At the same time, the streets are louder with tension than they've ever been. CBI is falling apart from the inside, and every small crack inside the Brotherhood is starting to spread like wildfire. Diamond is doing everything he can to hold things together, but Episode 2 made one thing very clear. Jennard isn't finished, and he isn't backing down. Even when he's cornered, he reacts like someone who has nothing left to lose, and those are the most dangerous people in this world. Episode 2 showed signs of Jennard watching, waiting, calculating who to use and who to cut off. That kind of silence from him is louder than any gunshot. And Episode 3 is likely to bring that energy to the front. And then there's Vic, quiet, unpredictable, and carrying more guilt than he wants to admit. There's something building beneath his calm surface, something that Episode 2 hinted at but didn't fully reveal. He's torn between fear, pressure from his family's legacy, and his desire to finally break free. But the question hanging over him is simple. Will he make a bold move or another cowardly one? Episode 2 placed him in situations where his choices didn't just affect him, they were shaping the whole board. We saw him in moments of hesitation, moments where the truth almost slipped out, and moments where loyalty looked more like a burden than a bond. This kind of emotional squeeze is dangerous, because Vic is the kind of character who explodes when pushed too far, even if he doesn't mean to. With all of this happening, the streets of Chicago feel like a ticking time bomb. Every character is carrying a secret. Every conversation is hiding a deeper meaning. Every decision feels like the first domino that leads to something bigger. Episode 2 didn't just show movement, it showed build-up. And Episode 3 is the moment where all that build-up stops being quiet. It's where we see who is ready to step up, who is about to fall apart, and who is planning something darker than anyone expected. Tommy wants control. CBI wants survival. The Flynns want revenge. And the city wants blood. Episode 2 simply opened the door. Episode 3 is the moment everyone walks through it. Tommy enters Episode 3 with a fire in his eyes that wasn't there before. A fire built from betrayal, rising danger, and the feeling that the walls around him are slowly closing in. Episode 2 made one thing clear. Tommy is no longer just trying to run the game, he's trying to survive it. He knows every move he makes now has to be calculated, sharp, and fast, because the number of people who want to see him fall is growing. But what makes this moment so intense is the silence before the storm. Tommy can feel something shifting in the streets. There's a calmness that doesn't feel safe. It feels like someone, somewhere, is planning a move they haven't made yet, and he can't tell who it is. This pressure forces him to think differently than before. Instead of hitting first, he's watching more carefully, reading the room, trying to understand which of his allies is truly with him and which one is only pretending to be. What makes Episode 3 even more dangerous for Tommy is how quickly his relationships are changing. In Episode 2, we saw cracks forming in places he didn't expect. People who once stood by him now speak with hesitation. People who promised loyalty now move with shadows behind their eyes. This kind of energy is deadly in Tommy's world because hesitation spreads faster than violence. He senses fear, and he senses distance. He knows some people are waiting to see whether he will rise or fall before they make their move. That kind of uncertainty is poison in the streets, and Tommy is smart enough to know that if he doesn't clear the poison now, it will turn into a full betrayal later. Episode 3 could be the point where Tommy stops giving warnings and starts giving consequences. But the real danger for Tommy may not be the people who speak against him, it may be the people who stay quiet. The streets are full of eyes watching him. Some belong to enemies who want to strike him down. Some belong to allies who are making deals behind closed doors. And some belong to new threats that episode 2 only hinted at. These silent players are the ones Tommy fears the most, because silence often means planning, and planning leads to moves that can't be undone. Episode 3 will likely show Tommy discovering a piece of information that changes everything. Maybe he learns about a deal being made without his name on it. Maybe he finds out someone he trusted is feeding information to the wrong side. Or maybe he sees a new gang stepping into his territory with enough confidence to challenge him. Whatever it is, it won't be small, and it won't be slow. We also saw an episode to that Tommy's strength is becoming a threat to others. People don't just fear him, they fear how quickly he's rising. That fear creates whispers, and whispers create plans to slow him down. Some are planning through violence, some through betrayal, and some through alliances meant to trap him. Episode 3 might be the moment where he realizes the war he's fighting isn't a simple street war, it's a war of trust, strategy, and power. And in this war, every wrong move can cost him the empire he's trying to build. Tommy's next step will likely decide who stands with him and who ends up becoming his next target. The pressure on him is like a weight he can't put down. But this is Tommy Egan pressure doesn't break him. It sharpens him. And episode 3 feels like the moment he shows everyone in Chicago that he's not backing down. He's getting ready to take the throne by force. CBI stands on the edge of collapse as episode 3 approaches, and the cracks we saw forming in episode 2 are about to widen into something far more dangerous. Diamond is trying to keep the organization alive, but the truth is he's losing control of the people he once trusted. Every decision he makes now feels like he's trying to hold sand in his hands. No matter how tight he grips, something slips through his fingers. Episode 2 showed Diamond fighting the pressure from inside the crew as much as the pressure coming from the outside world. He wants peace, he wants order, but Chicago doesn't care about peace, and it certainly doesn't reward weakness. You can feel the weight on his shoulders every time he speaks. You can see the frustration each time he has to clean up someone else's mess. And episode 3 may be the moment when Diamond realizes that leading CBI is not about holding things together anymore. It's about facing the truth that someone inside is ready to take him down. On the other side of this storm stands Jennard, the ticking bomb that Diamond refuses to see clearly. Episode 2 was a warning sign. Jennard is not finished, not forgiven, and definitely not harmless. He is moving like a man who feels betrayed by the world and wants revenge more than he wants stability. His silence, his frustration, and his hunger for control are all climbing to a dangerous peak. Episode 3 could be the moment Jennard starts pulling strings behind the scenes, making alliances that Diamond can't predict or stop. He talks less, but every move he makes is sharp, bitter, and fueled by anger. Jennard feels like someone who knows his time to strike is coming, and he's preparing for it. And the worst part? Diamond still cares about him, still hopes to fix the relationship. And that emotional blind spot could become the very thing that destroys CBI from within. But the conflict between the brothers isn't the only problem. Episode 2 introduced tension that runs deeper than loyalty. There are members of CBI who are watching the war form between Diamond and Jennard and are waiting to choose the winning side. Some see Diamond as too calm for the chaos around them. Others see Jennard as too reckless to trust. This growing divide is a silent threat, and episode 3 might reveal who is secretly switching loyalties. These small shifts in exchange look, a quiet conversation, a withheld truth may become major turning points. CBI doesn't fall because an enemy attacks, Organizations like CBI fall because the people inside start believing someone else deserves the crown. And right now, that belief is spreading. Another dangerous thread is the pressure from outside forces. Rival crews, old enemies, and new players sense the weakness in CBI. Episode 2 hinted that the streets are studying Diamond and Jennard's conflict like vultures circling over fresh trouble. The more CBI fights itself, the more the city prepares to take a bite. Episode 3 could bring new threats stepping into their territory, testing their strength, and pushing them toward decisions they're not prepared to make. This is the kind of instability that leads to betrayals, sudden alliances, and bloody consequences. And in the world of Force, things rarely stay quiet for long. What makes all of this even more intense is how Tommy fits into the picture. He can see the cracks in CBI, and he knows a house divided can be taken over or taken out. Episode 3 might show Tommy pulling away from CBI, stepping deeper into their business, or using their conflict to reshape Chicago's power map. No matter what he chooses, CBI's future is tied to Tommy's decisions. Diamond wants to work with him. Jennard wants to outplay him. And Tommy, he wants control, not confusion. So if CBI keeps breaking apart, Tommy may make a choice that changes the entire structure of their world. Episode 3 is shaping up to be the moment when all these invisible battles finally reveal themselves. Trust will be tested. Lines will be crossed. And the silent war between Diamond and Jennard may turn into something louder, darker, and irreversible. CBI isn't just unstable, it's one emotional explosion away from tearing itself apart. And Episode 3 may be the moment everything finally blows open. Episode 3 is shaping up to be the moment when the quietest characters finally make the loudest moves. And no one represents that more than Vic Flynn. Episode 2 showed Vic in a strange emotional space, caught between guilt, fear, and a growing desire to break away from the life he's trapped in. He moves through scenes like a man trying to outrun his own shadow, but the more he runs, the more the truth sticks to him. In Episode 3, this quiet tension around Vic could start to crack open. He's been holding onto secrets that could burn every bridge he has left. His loyalty to Tommy remains uncertain, not because he hates him, but because Vic is trying to survive in a world where every truth he hides could destroy him. Episode 3 may be the moment when he finally slips, revealing something he's tried desperately to bury. And once that truth comes out, the reactions around him could change the entire flow of alliances in Chicago. Vic is the kind of character whose smallest mistake turns into the biggest problem. And Episode 3 is ready to push that pressure to the breaking point. Claudia Flynn, on the other hand, is a different type of danger. Episode 2 painted her as someone moving in the dark, quietly building her power while avoiding direct conflict. But this silence doesn't mean she's weak, it means she's studying the board. Claudia always plays the long game, and Episode 3 may expose the pieces she's been arranging behind the scenes. She's smart enough to know that the world is changing around her, and she has no intention of being left behind. Her partnership choices, her side deals, and her secret meetings could come into the spotlight, showing that she has more influence than anyone expected. And the most dangerous thing about Claudia is that she doesn't need an army to make a move. She needs only one good opportunity. Episode 3 might be the point where she takes that opportunity, either by aligning with someone unexpected or taking down someone who never saw her coming. But the real threat in Episode 3 may come from the players who barely spoke in Episode 2, the ones who watched everything, learned everything, and waited for their moment. These silent characters, the ones who move like shadows, are the wild cards of the Force universe. They don't need big scenes or loud confrontations to change the story. All they need is one opening. Episode 2 dropped subtle hints that someone is digging deeper into Tommy's world, someone who is connecting dots people believed were forgotten. This invisible pressure is building, and Episode 3 could finally reveal who is pulling those threads. Whether it's a law enforcement move, a new rival gang, or a returning enemy from the past, this shadowy figure is likely to shape the direction of the entire season. The way they strike quickly, quietly, and without warning might be the shock that pushes Tommy, CBI, and the Flynns into chaos that the deeper we look, the more episode 3 starts to feel like a three-way storm, with each group ready to clash in ways they didn't expect. Vic is walking on a razor's edge, trying not to fall into the truth he's been avoiding. Claudia is building her future in the dark, preparing to step out only when she knows she can't be touched. And the unseen players, those who hold secrets, follow clues, or move with silent intentions, are ready to force their way into the spotlight. This combination creates a tension that could explode without warning. Episode 3 has the potential to shift who holds power, who loses control, and who becomes a target overnight. In the world of Power Book 4, Force, the people who stay quiet are usually the ones planning something heavy. Vic's confusion, Claudia's cold strategy, and the hidden moves of the unknown players create a dangerous maze where one wrong step could end careers, relationships, or lives. Episode 3 feels like the moment when the calm breaks and every plan hidden beneath the surface finally rises. And when it does, Chicago won't look the same, because the people who've been silent the longest might be the ones who roar the loudest. Episode 3 is lining up to be a battlefield of shifting loyalties and unpredictable moves. And the best way to understand the chaos ahead is to look at each character and what episode to hinted about their next steps. Let's start with Tommy, the beating heart of the story. Episode 2 showed us a version of Tommy who is getting sharper, angrier, and more aware of how fragile his empire really is. Episode 3 might push him to finally act on the doubts he's been carrying. He feels someone is moving against him, and he's right. He's preparing for a betrayal he hasn't fully seen yet, and his next decision might be the one that sets off a war. This episode may show Tommy choosing to cut ties, reshape alliances, or strike first before someone else gets the chance. He's tired of waiting, tired of chasing answers. And episode 3 might be the moment he takes the whole game into his own hands. No matter the price, Diamond, on the other hand, is walking into episode 3 with the quiet fear that the people he trusts the most may be slipping away. His calm personality is turning into a weakness in a world where speed and aggression dominate. Episode 2 already hinted that Diamond feels the pressure of being responsible not just for CBI, but for the future of everyone who depends on him. Episode 3 may show Diamond stepping into a harder, colder version of himself. He might stop trying to fix the Brotherhood and start trying to save what's left. The sad truth is that Diamond may finally realize that not everyone wants peace, and not every relationship can be repaired. This could push him into making a decision that changes CBI forever, even if it breaks him emotionally in the process. Jennard is walking into episode 3 like a storm waiting to form. He is angry, desperate, and ready to regain the power he believes was stolen from him. Episode 2 showed us a man who feels alone and cornered, but also a man who is slowly gathering the courage to fight back. Episode 3 may show Jennard building alliances that Diamond and Tommy don't expect. He might turn to old rivals, new crews, or even hidden enemies just to regain control. His pride is wounded, and wounded pride creates dangerous choices. This could be the episode where Jennard stops hiding and starts swinging. And when he swings, he won't swing softly, he'll swing to take back everything he feels he lost. The question is, will he be smart enough to survive the consequences? Vic Flynn enters episode 3 like a walking confession waiting to happen. He's been holding onto guilt and secrets for too long, and it's starting to change the way he moves, speaks, and thinks. Episode 2 revealed the cracks in his confidence, showing a man struggling to keep a lie alive while the world around him burns. Episode 3 may force Vic into a corner where he has to choose between protecting himself or protecting Tommy, and Vic has never been great at choosing the right side. The stress he carries could push him toward a mistake that exposes everything. His loyalty is shaky, his fear is rising, and the walls are closing in. If episode 3 reveals even a piece of the truth Vic is hiding, his entire world might collapse in one explosive moment. Claudia Flynn, meanwhile, steps into episode 3 with more power than anyone is giving her credit for. Episode 2 hinted at moves she's making underneath the surface calls, meetings, alliances that seem small but carry heavy results. Claudia is the quiet assassin of the season, the one who watches every mistake and waits for the perfect moment to strike. Episode 3 could show her stepping into a new role, either partnering with a surprising ally or building a threat that no one sees coming. She is done being overshadowed. She wants control, and she's willing to hurt anyone who stands in her way, even if they share her blood. Her next move could shock viewers, not because it's loud, but because it's smart. And then we have the secondary characters, the ones who don't speak much but carry more importance than people realize. These are the soldiers, the friends, the watchers in the background. Episode 2 placed them in positions that hint at shifting loyalties. Episode 3 might reveal who is truly loyal, who is scared, and who is secretly working with someone else. In a world like